Hi, this is Showman Roy. In this video, I'm going to go over Microsoft Azure Web App. So let me explain to you what exactly is the app service plan and how it is actually affecting all your applications that are launched or using web app or app API or container or even app Azure functions. So app service plan is this app service plan is mainly is a container. It's one of the PaaS platform as a service offering from Microsoft. And what it does is it helps you integrate all the resources that your applications or web application or the function or the containers is going to use. It will make it all in a as a container for every resources that your web app is going to use. It includes the either for management or hosting, location, or even the cost, everything together as a container, it maintains it. So as a matter of fact, if it can be given that it can be part of an isolated environment, or even if you're in the gov environment, it actually can specify that. So that's what the whole purpose of this. So if you are creating one of the web app or containerizing your application, you can specify what service plan you're using in order for you to maintain those resources for a service plan. So it is easy for Microsoft and you to know how it is managed and where it is hosted and how much it is going to cost you. So everything will be part of this container. So I'll go over this one, like what exactly the Azure function, how it can be benefit to your business and reduce the cost of existing applications which may be running on a different data center and so forth. So scaling in Azure is either manually or automatic, depending on what type of applications that you have, whether it is high computing, like you may have an application that are maybe on and off, you don't need 24/7, it can actually do that kind of scaling or that kind of application, that kind of support, so that you can actually effectively manage the cost of running those applications. If your applications is like a batch processing that doesn't require your server to run 24/7, you can actually manage that in the in Azure Web App environment. And if suddenly you have lot of load on the application, it can auto scale up, or either I can say vertically or horizontally, depending on, and I'll go with that one. Or if you have a sudden usage, like during the market open or during market close, you have the heavy usage of those applications, the servers, it can auto scale this. That's the power you'll be getting. And this is the scale up or scale out, which is vertical or horizontal in other words. So scale up means, like, for example, you have the virtual machines. If you have 1 core processor, 2 core processor, 4 core, or how much memory you are using, it can be like 1 GB, 2 GB, 4 GB, 8 GB, 16, 32, whatever. So that's the scale up. Now you can automatically do that. We can configure that in your environment to say, okay, I want this to be automated, or you can do manually. And Azure Service actually supports that kind of feature. And also the scale out. So if you have this, let's say I'm giving this one, this is the scale out, and this is the scale up. So scale out means, like, you can see in the scale up version, you can start with a small and grow, depending on the usage, or you can see auto scale up in the scale, like number of, it's the same size, but the number of instances of the server can be automatically scaled out. So it's like in other words, like it's horizontal growth. So next, that's exactly what I just mentioned. It can be either done manually, or it can be like auto scaled. This is part of the portal where you can configure all these things. So let's say this is the end users are here, and the end users are using the your application from various devices, and let's say suddenly, and it is using your application here. If it is like there is a growth here, so let's say this is the multiple more people started using it, it can actually multiply those servers, so it started supporting those. And if it is like typically when it is growing much faster, let's say, and it needs more power, in the Azure, in the data center, actually depending on the usage, it can grow. And the good part is that you don't have to, when it is like a lot of CPUs or a lot of servers are engaged, and suddenly let's say there is a drop in the volume, you can see like automatically it will scale down, which means not going to charge you. So that is the advantage of using the web app. It's a PaaS service, so it's automatically make sure that you are not going to if there is less number of users are right now, it will all scale down, auto scale down. So that is the advantage. And when you are using and it also supports continuous development. Like as a developer, one of the key things is that we can actually either manually deploy using FTP, but it is not really highly recommended, but we do it like you can actually use the web deployment. The FTP reason I mentioned that it is because it uses the username password, so it has some possible vulnerability. But if you are using the web deployment, you can actually deploy from your system to your development system, or to the servers. So, and you can also use like Git or Visual Studio or even Dropbox. Using that, you can actually deploy. So this is how typically you can do this one. So you can see that the developer actually can use this one. So developer develop something, the application, then now go to put that in the source control. So you can put that in GitHub or in the Git, and then you go and put this one in staging. Okay, the staging is mainly for that, even though it is a production environment, but you can say the staging goes from it is a production environment, but it has a slot. The slot is called staging slot. The advantage of using the staging slot is that you don't have to really, even though the main users are using like the production, the current version, but the staging, even though it is on the same app service plan, but it has a different slot. So it actually use the newer version of the code on that on the slot, so developers can actually test, and then after that you can give it to your test team to test that one. And so it is technically living. It is living on the same service plan. It is on the same pretty much on the same plan, on the same hosting environment. But the moment you say you need to swap the version, that means you are now testing, said okay, we signed off and we tested everything looks fine, I wanted to now move this one. So you can actually move the code from the staging environment to the production environment, and that is called swap, and it is it is done instantly. So there won't be, the users won't be much affected, but it is like instantly it can swap the version, and that is the biggest advantage. So, and that's why we recommend to use a slot for the web application, and the day of the deployment or the release, you actually, so deployment can be done on the staging by the whatever the process you have, and once on the day of the release, all you have to do is swap it, and that is instantaneous. And that is the biggest advantage I can think about of using the web apps. So that's pretty much it. So now is the time to show the demo. So let's see how that works. So let's start with the portal. So I'm going to go to the portal and create a new web app, and that's the web app I'm going to develop as an application, and then we are going to see. So I'm going to search for web app here. So web app, it's supposed to say web app. So it's going to give us the web app. I'm going to select the web app here, and I'm going to create one, let's say a simple name like my name, Showman Roy. So, and I'm going to create a new resource group for this, and as an app service plan, as I said, that's the container. I'm going to select at least something, let's say create a new one, and since I'm from East US, so I'm going to select that, and let's select the standard package, and the standard is S1, and I'm just selecting that. So let's say OK. The reason for selecting the standard is I'm going to say standard plan. So the reason I'm selecting the standard, because standard in basic you don't have the slot, so I wanted to demo the slots as well. So I'm creating this web app called Showman Roy, and it's going to create and to give me that URL in. So it's right now deploying. So let's go and see how so it's still deploying. It's not assigned any domain or subdomain for me yet. So let's see how that. This is the fun part, like when all these things we can do it programmatically. Right now I'm just using the portal. So let's go to the resource, and you'll see the actual URL that is created is this. So if I copy this URL and go and put this is the production right now. So this is the simple app, it is came right now. But let's now use a Visual Studio to develop an application and deploy that. So let's see how. So I'm going to use Visual Studio to create a simple application just out of the box. So file, new, project. I'm going to create something, let's say a simple one, and I give this name as doesn't matter. So for demo web app, and I'm going to create this one. It's a simple web app, and I'm creating this with a basic template for the web applications, and that's the fun part. So you can see that it is right now here. Let's run this locally, make sure everything it builds runs locally. So that's how it is. We are going to do here is restore completed all the packages, and now build succeeded, and now it's running locally. So this is the local host, run, done. Now I'm going to deploy this to the application that I just created. It is called Showman Roy. The first time I'm deploying, so I'm directly putting that on the. So let's go Visual Studio, and I'm going to say publish. So it's a web publish. I'm going to create a profile. So I'm going to select an existing app service that is running there, and it should give me the one that I just created under the Showman Roy resource group, and I'm going to say yes, create it. So I'm done. Now I'm going to publish this. This is the production zone. So I'm going to publish this, and it should build and publish to Azure Web Apps service. So it's going to now publishing. Let's see the output. You can see all these things right now is going on there. That's it. Okay, so it's kind of like created the application, now it's publishing. It should be done. Okay, so it is published. Now it's automatically launching the app, that URL, and yes, it is launched. So this is the production. Now what I want to show that how exactly we can create a staging slot. So going forward, let's say this is the production version. I wanted to make some changes, and that change I need to deploy, but I don't want to deploy directly to this production, so we'll be creating a slot. So let's go to the portal, and this is the deployment slots. You can see there, and I can add a new slot. I'm going to name this slot as staging. Okay, so staging and the production. I'm going to deploy that everything on the staging. So now it's created. Let's go and see what is the URL for the staging. So this is the URL for the staging, and let's open a new tab and paste that URL. You can notice that it is the staging slot, and hit enter. It will be the default, like Azure default page. So I need to now make a new change. So let's go to our dev environment, and I'm going to go to the web pages where I wanted to change a simple change I'm going to make. So let's say this is the learn how to build ASP now anywhere, or actually let's change this one. So you can see this is the text that we have. Let's go back to our this is so you can see see, this is the text you wanted to change right now. Okay, so I'm going to change that learn with Showman Roy. So that's, I'm going to change it, right? So this is the text. I'm going to say learn with Showman Roy. And now you can see that I save this one, I run it locally, so you know that it is it have that change. So it says run with Showman Roy. And now let's this change I wanted to deploy into staging. So let's go back and create a new profile. So I'm going to go to the publish. I'm going to create a new profile. So that profile is nothing but the staging profile. So we are going to select one, the existing one, and since we already created the staging slot, it is now going to show that staging slot right here. And that's what I'm going to do now. Created a profile, and this is where I'm going to publish the change. So by default, if I go to production, after this deployment is done, it is still going to be the previous version. But after this is like, after the test team actually test it, make sure that my change is there, and they sign off that okay, now you can go and deploy or release that. On the day of the release, you can actually just swap. So that's exactly I'm going to demo now. So you can see that in staging it is having this my change. But let's say if I go back to the production, let's close this other windows. So if I go back to production, let's refresh it, it's still the old one, right? So now how do we swap? So this is the, let's close all the other tabs. Let's have the staging and the production. So staging, let's refresh it. You can see it has my name, but in production, if I go and refresh it, I don't have my name, right? So now what we need to do is, you can go to the deployment slots like this one, and you can swap. swap is the way you can actually release. So I'm going to swap this one. So I'm going to swap type is this, it is a swap. You can also like with a preview, but I'm just going to swap now. And the source is staging to production. And I'm going to say, okay. And you see it is instantly change the production side. So it is actually still swapping. So you can see that it is, the moment swapping is done, your release is done. Just go and hit the live production URL, you'll see the change. So this is as simple as that. So swap is operation completed successfully. Now you can see that. Now let's go and refresh this one. So right now, if it is, I'm going to refresh it. So you have the change that we just did. So that's how the web applications are useful and very easy to use in Azure environment. Thank you for watching this video. And the next video, I'm going to go over the next topic. I think randomly I'll select one that will definitely help you. Thank you.